Imagine dying, not in seconds, not in minutes, but slowly. Your skin peeled off inch by inch while you were still alive, or being roasted alive inside a metal bull as your screams echoed like music to a crowd. These weren't executions, they were performances of pain, and every one of them actually happened. This isn't fiction, this is history at its most twisted. You're about to witness the darkest, most sadistic execution methods humanity ever created. Not to kill, but to make people suffer until the very last breath. To understand why these gruesome methods existed, you need to step into the mindset of the past. For most of human history, justice wasn't about rehabilitation. It was about fear. Governments, kings, and religious authorities didn't just want to punish criminals, they wanted to make an example out of them. And the message was clear: disobey, and this could be you. But the brutality wasn't just for the condemned, it was theater. Public executions became social events. Crowds gathered, food was sold, children watched. These weren't just punishments. They were performances of power. And the more painful the method, the louder the message. Today, we're going to walk through the worst of the worst. Execution methods so painful, so creatively cruel, that they make horror movies look tame. From medieval Europe to ancient Asia, this is a countdown of real-life ways people were killed, slowly. Let's start with flaying, the method of peeling a person's skin from their body while they were still breathing. Used by the Assyrians, Persians, and even medieval Europe, flaying wasn't just a punishment, it was a public warning. Victims were stripped naked, tied down, and sliced with terrifying precision. The executioner would start at the feet or legs, slowly working upward. The goal: to keep the victim alive as long as possible. One wrong move and the person would die too quickly. But done correctly, and yes, that was a skill, the person could survive hours, even longer. In some cases, the removed skin was then nailed to the city walls, like a human billboard. A brutal message for all to see: defy the state, and this is your fate. Even in death, the suffering wasn't over. Many flayed victims weren't given burials. Their bodies were left to rot in public, a rotting symbol of state power. But as sickening as this sounds, flaying wasn't even close to the worst. We have a method so cruel, it shocked even the tyrants who commissioned it: the brazen bull. An execution device forged entirely out of metal, designed not just to kill, but to humiliate and entertain. The victim was shoved naked into the belly of a hollow bronze bull. The door would be sealed shut, and a fire lit beneath the belly. As the metal heated, the person inside would begin to cook, slowly. Skin blistered, muscles tore, organs boiled. The heat didn't kill instantly, it tortured, turning the bull into a literal oven of agony. But here's the most twisted part. The bull's designer, a man named Perilos, engineered the head to convert the victim's screams into the sound of a raging bull. That's right. The crowd didn't just hear a person in pain. They heard an animalistic roar, amplified through twisted acoustics. Pain turned into performance. Legend says Perilos presented the bull to the tyrant Phalaris as a gift, and was immediately thrown into it himself to demonstrate how it worked. Justice or irony? That's for you to decide. But the bull was just the beginning. Up next, a method so slow and calculated, victims were turned into living sculptures before death finally came. Method number 3, impalement. If you've ever heard the name Vlad the Impaler, then you already know this method by reputation. But the real thing? It was far more disturbing than legends suggest. Impalement wasn't just about pain, it was about total domination of the body and the mind. The process was slow, deliberate, and designed to keep the victim alive for as long as humanly possible. The victim would be forced 20 or worse lowered onto a sharpened stake. Not through the chest, through the rectum, vagina, or groin. The stake was not sharp. That's important. It was deliberately dulled, so it would move organs aside rather than puncture them. Why? So the victim wouldn't die too quickly. Incredibly, historical records show that some victims survived for hours, even days, slowly sliding down the stake as gravity did its work. Vlad III of Wallachia, the man who inspired Dracula, allegedly impaled 20,000 people and lined the roads with their corpses. It wasn't just punishment, it was psychological warfare. Whole armies would retreat in horror at the sight. This was the art of sending a message, written not in ink, but in blood and silence. You've heard the phrase, death by 1,000 cuts. But what if I told you that's not a metaphor? It was a real execution method, used for centuries in imperial China. And it was as precise as it was cruel. Called lingqi, it literally translates to slow slicing. Reserved for traitors, patricides, and those considered an offense to the empire itself. This wasn't just about death. It was about desecration. The executioner would start small, a finger, a cheek, a muscle carved delicately from the arm. Each slice, done carefully, intentionally, to prolong life and pain as long as possible. Dozens, hundreds. Some victims remained conscious through the entire ordeal. It wasn't just physical. Lingqi had spiritual consequences. In traditional Chinese beliefs, a mutilated body could not rest peacefully in the afterlife. So lingqi didn't just kill the body, it shattered the soul. In 1905, the Qing dynasty finally banned lingqi after global outcry. But for nearly 1,000 years, it was the state's ultimate punishment, the slow erasure of a person, one slice at a time. If you think impalement and flaying were horrific, this next method isn't just painful, it's putrid. A slow, rotting death known as scaphism, or the boats. Used by the ancient Persians, it wasn't about killing someone, it was about letting nature do it for them. The condemned was stripped naked and forced into a narrow, hollowed log, one half on top, one half on bottom, leaving their arms, legs, and head exposed. Then they were force-fed milk and honey until they vomited and kept feeding. Why? To cause uncontrollable diarrhea. Their own waste would begin to pool around them, baking under the sun. Next, executioners would smear honey over every exposed body part, especially the face and eyes. Then, they left them, floating, alive, in stagnant water, helpless, unable to move. The result? Insects, flies, wasps, worms, would burrow into every orifice. Larvae would hatch inside the flesh. Infection would rot the body from the outside and the inside. Victims could survive days, even over a week, screaming in agony, delirious from heat, disease, and decay. One historical account claims a soldier survived 17 days, conscious nearly the entire time. Scaphism wasn't just execution, it was a living nightmare, slow, sticky, and unforgettable. Across centuries and continents, humans have proven one thing: our capacity for cruelty is limitless when it's dressed up as justice. These weren't just deaths, they were displays, rituals of suffering, designed not to kill quickly but to stretch agony into a spectacle. The pain was the point. Today we look back in horror. We call them barbaric. We tell ourselves we're more civilized, but here's the question that lingers. If cruelty was once justice, how sure are we that we've evolved? If you made it this far, you're not just curious. You're like us, drawn to the darkest corners of human history. Subscribe to Twisted Facts Vault for more real stories that are too disturbing to forget, one truth at a time.